Okay, so we're doing this video. First question is find the value of 16 to the power of a half. So 1a part 1. This is basically 16 to the power of a half plus root 4 cubed. Okay, so what you can say is that root 16, that means root 16, 4 cubed is actually root 64. And then what you can get here is 4 plus 8, which should equal 12. So 8 plus 4 equals 12. So that's the answer to part 1. Now a part 2 is going to be 125 to the power of x equals 1 over 5. Now just a quick thing to remember is that a to the power of minus 1 is 1 over a. This means that 1 over 5 is 5 to the power of minus 1. So this here is, the right hand side is 5 to the power of minus 1. Now 125 is much bigger than 5, so we had to figure out how many times do you need to multiply 5 to get 125. Okay, so what you can do here is divide 125 by 5. That's once. Divide it again. That's twice. Divide it again 3 times. So you need 3 5s to make, you have to multiply 5 3 times by itself to make 125. Okay, so it's 5 to the power of 3 to the power of x. Now remember, the next rule is it's a power of a power, so you're going to get 5 to the power of 3x equals 5 to the power of minus 1. Because the base numbers are the same, you can say that now 3x equals minus 1. Bring the 3 underneath, x equals minus 1 over 3. Okay, next question, 1b part 1. So 1b part 1. Express root 50 minus root 32. So root 50 minus root 32 plus 2 root 8 in the form k root 2, where k is a natural number, so k is going to be a number bigger than 0, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, some number around there. So remember these numbers 1, 4, 9, 16, 25. Okay, these numbers are quite important. You can break root 50 up into root 25 times root 2. You can break 32 into root 16 times root 2. And then you could also break root 8 up into root 4 times root 2. And it's going to be 5 root 2 is 25 root 2. Root 16 is 4, so that's going to be 4 root 2. And the number 4 is going to be, 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by root 2. So what you're going to get is plus 4 root 2. 4 root 2's cancel each other out. And what you're going to be left with is 5 root 2. So that equals k root 2. This means k equals 5. Okay. Now, next question is write down an irrational number between 6 and 7. So an irrational number is a number that can't be presented as a fraction. Okay. So what we need to do is need to figure out a number that's irrational and exists between 6 and 7. So what we can do is we can go to the square root, alright? Now we know that the square root of 36 is 6, okay? And the square root of 49 is 7. So we can just pick the square root of a number in between 36 and 49. So for instance, root 38 is a number that's irrational because there's no there's no dots on top of the decimal. So root 38 is a perfect example of a number that will satisfy this. So this is B part 2. Now, by rounding appropriately, estimate the value of 28.6 multiplied by 2 root 17.3 divided by 4.12 squared plus 3.84 squared. Now use your calculator to find this value correct to 2 decimal places. Okay, so to do this, what we'll first do is we'll first round them off. So to round them off, I'll round off 28.6 to 29. I'm going to make that 2 root 17. I'm going to round off 4.12 to the 4 squared. So just 1 second. So we'll make that root 17 a bit better. I'm going to make root 4 squared, and then plus 3.84, we can make that into a 4 as well. Now we just got to use our calculator on this, and we're going to get a 29 multiplied by 2 root 17 divided by 4 squared plus 4. And what we get here is 11.96 to 2 decimal places, so 11.957, which is 11.96. Okay. Now we gotta do this question now in we gotta do the initial equation in our calculator now as well. So what we can get here is the following. We're just going to use the fraction button right away. So 28.6 multiplied by 2 root 17.3 all divided by 4.12 squared plus 3.84. And what we're going to get here is 11.43. So 11.43 is the true answer, but you can see by rounding off we got a different answer, so we got 11.96. So when you round off, answers sometimes become inaccurate. Okay. Which of the following have the same value? Okay. So what we have to figure out is which of these have the same value. So we can put in 4 to the power of a half. So 4 to the power of a half. Now we know 4 to the power of a half is 2. Okay. The next one is 4 to the power of minus a half. So 4 to the power of minus a half. And that's going to be a half. And then we're going to get 16 to the power of a quarter. To the power of 1 C4. And we get 2. And then finally 2 to the power of 0. And any number to the power of 0 should equal 1. So 2 to the power of 0, and that equals 1. So which twos have the same value? 4 to the power of a half and 16 to the power of a quarter have the same value. Now 2a part 2. And what we're going to have here is write 5,300 in standard form. So you get 5,300. Now remember, standard form, it's a number bigger than 1. So it's going to be x to the power of something, and then there's going to be a decimal number in here between 1 and 10. So what we do is you get 5,300, and you keep dividing by 10 until you get a number between 1 and 10. So that's once, that's twice, that's 3 times, so 3 times, so 5.3, 5.3, 10 to the 3. Now you can test this out, just make sure it's the same answer. So 5.3 multiplied by 10 to the power of 3. Where you get there is 5,300, so you know they're the same value as each other. Okay. Now 2b part 1. Part 1. Express 3 root 12 minus root 27 in the form k root 3, where k is a natural number. So once again, we look at our numbers are perfect squares, and we use them as factors. Okay, so we're going to get 3 multiplied by root 4 root 3, and this one here is going to be root 9 root 3. And what we get is It's going to be 3 multiplied by 2 multiplied by root 3 minus 3 root 3. 3 multiplied by 2 is 6 root 3. 6 root 3 minus 3 root 3 will give you an answer of 3 root 3. Okay. Now, next question. Find the value of 8 multiplied by 10 to the minus 3 to the power of a third without using a calculator. Okay, now, what happens here is, there's a rule. If I have two numbers that are the same, so for instance, if I have 6 squared, we all know 6 squared is 36. If I was to break up 6 into 2 multiplied by 3 and square it, the answer should still be 36. So in effect what the square does is the square comes in and it squares both the 2 and the 3. So we're going to get 2 squared plus multiplied by 3 squared, which is 4 multiplied by 9, which is still 36, okay? So using this same method, we're going to do this question here. The power multiplies in and changes to 2d, so we're going to have 8 to the power of a third multiplied by 10 to the minus 3, which is already there, and now that's to the power of a third as well. So 8 to the power of a third basically means what number when multiplied 3 times gives you 8, and we know that that's 2. Worst comes to worst, you can check it. Now you're obviously not meant to use the calculator, but if it's here and it's handy, you can double check your answer, 2. Now what it means by don't using the calculator means just show your workings, alright? So all of this here turns out to be 2 multiplied by, now you're going to multiply the powers in this case, so it's going to be minus 3 multiplied by a third. Minus 3 multiplied by a third is 10 to the power of minus 1. Okay? And then what we know about 10 to the minus 1 is it's a tenth. So it's 2 multiplied by a tenth. That's plus a tenth. 2 multiplied by a tenth, which is 2 tenths, because you multiply top by top, bottom by bottom. And 2 tenths is a fifth. Now remember, there's nothing stopping you from checking your answer. So what we can do here is we must have 8 multiplied by 10 to the power of minus 3. Bring it over to the power of a third. There it is, a fifth, so we know our answer is correct. Okay, but we showed the workings, which is what they were looking for regards to marks. Now, next one. Find the value of the variable in each of these equations. So the variable is the letter. So it wants me to find 2 to the power of x equals 1. Now, there's only one way to do this question. You have it in your memory that 2 to the power, any number to the power of 0 equals 1. Therefore, x has to be equal to 0. Part 2 is 2 to the power of y equals a quarter. You got to change 4 into 2 squared, because you need the base numbers to be the same. So you have 2 to the power of y equals 1 over 2 squared. Then you have your next rule where a to the power of minus x equals 1 over a to the x. In this case, x is 2, and a is also 2. A is the big 2, x is small 2. So we say is the answer is 2 to the power of y equals 2 to the power of minus 2. And therefore, y will have to equal minus 2. Okay. Next part of this. Find the value of the next variable, which is 32 to the power of z. So 32 to the power of z equals 2. So what we're going to do here is we need to change 32 into a power of 2. So we're going to get 32, and we're going to keep dividing it by 2 until we get the number 1. So that's once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Now we have the number 1. So it's going to be 2 to the power of 5 is 32. When you multiply two when you multiply 2 by itself 5 times, you get 32. And that's 2 to the power of 5 to the power of z equals 2 to the power of 1. Now we have to multiply the power of the power, so it's going to be 2 to the power of 5z equals 2 to the power of 1. 5z therefore equals 1. Z therefore equals a fifth. Okay. Next question. 16 to the power of b plus 3 equals 2 to the power of b. So what we have to do is we have to change 16 into 2 to the power of something, because we need the base numbers to be the same. So once again, get 16 and divide it by 2 until it becomes the number 1. So that's once, this is twice, this is 3 times, this is 4 times. 16 is 2 to the power of 4. So 2 to the power of 4 is 16. b plus 3 equals 2 to the power of b. Remember the rule? You multiply the powers. So it's going to become 2 to the power of 4b plus 12 equals 2 to the power of b. And finally 4b plus 12 equals b. Bring it over, bring it over. You get 4b minus b equals minus 12. And therefore 3b equals minus 12. And b must be minus 12 divided by 3, which is going to be minus 4. b is therefore minus 4. Okay, next one. Which two of the following numbers are equal? So 16 to the power of a half is the same thing as root 16. That's 4. 4 to the power of minus 1 is a quarter. 32 to the power of 0 is 1. Minus 2 to the power of 4 is plus 16. And 2 to the power of minus 2 is the same thing as 1 over 2 squared, which equals a quarter. So two of them that are the same would be 4 to the power of minus 1 and 2 to the power of minus 2. So these two here. Okay. Now find the value of x for which root 2 multiplied by root x is rational. Rational means that the number can be expressed as a fraction. It's either a whole number like 2, 3, 4, minus 7. It has to be a number like that, or a fraction like minus 2 over 3, 4 over 6, 7 over 8. It has to be able to be expressed as a fraction. Now the problem is with 3a part 2 is that square roots are always irrational. So whatever number I have to multiply this by has to stop it from being a surd. So I could put in the answer of root 2. So root 2 multiplied by root 2 is root 4, and root 4 equals 2. The number 2 is rational, okay? So this is a good answer. Another answer might be root 2. You want to multiply 2, so it ends up to be one of these numbers here. So I'm going to turn it into 16, root 16 this time, so I'm going to use root 8 as my answer. That would be root 16, and that would equal 4. So basically you have to multiply it by another surd that gives it a perfect square value, which then when you put it into the surd, you get the square root of a perfect square number. It turns out to be a normal rational whole number. Okay, next question, 3b part 1. So 3b part 1. Now 2x to the power of 4 multiply by, I'm going to use the multiply sign as a dot, multiply by 6x to the power of 3, divide all this by 3x to the power of 5. Now let's start off with the normal numbers. 2 multiplied by 6 is 12, 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 4 is what's left of the normal numbers. Now x4 multiplied by x3 multiplied by x3, you add them and you get x7. x7 is then being divided by x5, and this means you take them away, so it's x7 minus 5, which is x2. The answer is 4x squared. Next question. Express B part 2. Express 8.4 by 10 to the 4 divided by 2.8 by 10 to the minus 1. So we're allowed to use the calculator on this one. 8.4 multiplied by 10 to the power of 4 equals 84,000. Then we can divide that by 2.8 multiplied by 10 to the power of minus 1. And what we get is 3,000. 3,000, okay? Now, it wants it in the standard form, okay? So what we gotta do is we gotta divide 3,000 by 10 and count how many tens it needs to get before it becomes a number between 1 and 10. So there's 1. There's 2. There's 3. So it's going to be 3 multiplied by 10 to the power of 3. Okay. Find the value of 25 to the power of 3 over 2. So 25 to the power of 3 over 2. Now, you could do it this way. 25 to the power of 3 over 2 is the same thing as saying 25 to the power of half to the power of 3. 25 to the power of half means root 25. We all know that root 25 equals 5. Now it wants to know what is the value of 5 multiplied by itself 3 times. So that's the same thing as 25 multiplied by 5, and that's the same thing as 125. So the answer for that one is 125. Okay, you could also do that by calculator, quite handy as well. Okay, next one, C part 2. Find the value of x for which 16 to the power of x equals 1 to the 1 over 8. 16 and 8, right? 8 is the smaller number. 8 to the power of 1 is 8. 8 to the power of 2 is 64. Because 16 is not on this list, it means that we have to put 8 and 16 into a smaller number. You can't use 4 because 4 to the power of 1 is 4. 4 to the power of 2 is 16. 8 isn't on this list, so that's no good. We could try 2 to the power of 1, 2 to the power of 2, 2 to the power of 3, 2 to the power of 4. And what we see is that's 2, 4, 8, and 16. So now we know we can use this because 8 and 16 are on this list. So 16 changes into 2 to the power of 4 to the power of x. 8 changes into 2 to the power of 3. Now the rule is, once again, that a to the power of x, a to the power of minus x equals 1 over a to the x. In this case, x is 3, a is 2. So x is 3, so it's going to be minus 3, a is 2, 2 to the power of minus 3. So what we're going to get is this side turns into 2 to the power of minus 3. This side you multiply it out, so you're going to get 2 to the power of 4x. Now that the base numbers are the same, we can say that 4x equals minus 3. And then what we can say after that is x equals divided by 4 is minus 3 over 4. Okay. So I think that's the end of that question there. Now you could also check your answer. X is minus 3 over 4. So what you could do is you could replace x with your answer. So you could say 16 to the power of minus 3 divided by 4, and the answer I should get is an 8. This proves that my answer of minus 3/4 is correct. Okay. Write each of these number as a fraction, right? So with each of these as a whole number or a fraction. 2 to the power of 5, check your calculator, is 32. 3 to the power of minus 2 is a ninth, just put into your calculator. 4 to the power of a half is the square root of 4, the square root of 4 is 2. 7 to the power of 0 is 1, because any number to the power of 0 is 1. 27 to the power of a third, what this means is what number when multiplied by itself 3 times gives you 27. The answer is 3, but just for argument's sake, let's say you just want to use the calculator on it. There you go, the answer is 3. So there we go. Now, express 0.04 in its standard form. 0.04 is a smaller number than 1. If it's a smaller number than 1, what you're going to get is a number multiplied by 10 to the power of a minus number. Okay? So the minus number is, we have to figure out how many times we have to multiply this number by 10 to get it in between 1 and 10. So we have 0.04 multiplied by 10 once is a fraction multiplied by 10 again, and we get the number 4. So it's going to be 4 by 10 to the minus 2. Okay, so basically you're moving over twice, or you're moving 4 back twice. So what the minus 2 means is that you're moving the 4 this way once and this way twice. So it's going to be 0, 4. Okay. Now, next question. Solve the equation 4 to the power of x equals 8. So 4b part 2. 4 to the power of x equals 8. 4 is 2 squared to the power of x. 8 is 2 to the power of 3 to the power of x. Oh, sorry, there's no x there, excuse me. Now what we get is 2 to the power of 2x equals 2 to the power of 3. 2x equals 3. Divide by 2. X equals 3 over 2. Okay. Part C. Decide if each of the following statements is true or false. If the statement is false, give the example to show why. If x squared equals x, then the only possible value for x is 1. Okay, that's false because 1 squared equals 1, but 0 squared also equals 0, so it could also be x equals 0. Okay. If a squared equals 64, then the only possible, so the first one is false. If a squared equals 64, the only possible value for a is 8. This is false because a squared equals 64 means what number when multiplied by itself gives you 64. So we could say a is 8 because 8 multiplied by 8 is 64. Another answer, however, is minus 8. Because minus 8 multiplied by minus 8 is also 64. So therefore we're forgetting about the minus answer. Now next one. Number 3. A to the power of 0, a to the power of 0, a to the power of 0, a to the power of 0 is greater than 2. Well, we know that a to the power of 0 equals 1. So what's basically asking us is 1 multiplied by 1, 1 multiplied by 1, multiplied by 1, multiplied by 1. And we know that when you multiply 1s by each other, the answer is 1. 1 is not greater than 2, therefore it's false. Okay, next one. 2 to the minus n equals 0.5 to the power of n. So let's see what happens here. 2 to the minus n equals 0.5 can be changed to a half to the power of n. Okay. Now, as we've discussed before, if I have 3/4 to the power of 2, that's you use the power on both numbers. So the answer would be 3 squared over 4 squared, which is 9 over 16. this question is no different. The n gets put onto both of them. So 2 to the power minus n equals 1 to the power of n divided by 2 to the power of n. Now, the thing about 1 is 1 to the power of any number other than 0, 1 to the power of any number other than 0 is 1. Okay? So actually even 1 to the power of 0 is 1. So any number for n will turn out to be, this answer here has to be the number 1. Because if it's 1 squared, it's 1. If it's 1 cubed, it's 1. If it's 1 to the power of 1, it's 1. If it's 1 to the power of 0, it's 1. So therefore it has to be the number 1. So we can get rid of the power of n. Now we have 2 to the power of n on the bottom. And this is a rule. So this is actually a rule that in the notes that a to the minus x equals 1 over a to the x. Therefore this is true. Okay. 2 to the power of n is less than 0, where n is a negative integer. Well, what we can do is we can pick a negative integer. If n is a negative integer, then 2 to the minus 3 is an example of that, or 2 to the minus 8. You can put these into your calculator. 2 to the power minus 3 is an 8, and 2 to the power minus 8 is 1 over 256. Both of these numbers are bigger than 0. Therefore, this is false. Okay, number 5. Express each as a whole number or fraction. Okay, so we can say 1 divided by 4 to the power of minus 2. And we get 16. Alright, so the first one is 16. The next one is 4 a quarter to the power of a half. So 4 to the power of a half. And that is a quarter to the power of a half is a half. So this one here is a half. Then we have 125 to the power of a third, which is the number 5. Then finally root 8 divided by root 2 is root 4, and root 4 is the number 2. So the answer for that one is 2. Okay, express 40 multiplied by root 5 in the form p root 2, where p is an element of n. So what you can say is root 40 multiplied by root 5. What we need to do is need to break 40 up before we begin. So we're going to get root 8 multiplied by root 5 multiplied by root 5. Now root 5 by root 5 is 5. We need to break 8 up further, root 8 up further, and that's going to turn into root 4 by root 2. 4 is the number 2. So it's the number 2 multiplied by root 2 multiplied by 5. And as we know is that we multiply the normal numbers by each other first. So 5 multiplied by 2 is 10. So the answer is going to be 10 root 2. Okay? Where p, you want the answer to be p root 2. Therefore p must be equal to 10. Okay. Next part. Um, 4 to the power of 2x plus 1 equals 8. Okay, as discussed before, 4 is the smaller number and 8 isn't on the list of numbers here, so we have to use a smaller number. So we're going to break 4 up into 2 squared, and we're going to break 8 up into 2 cubed, and what we're going to do is going to multiply these out. So we're going to get 2 to the power of 4x plus 2 equals 2 to the power of 3. Then what we're going to get is 4x plus 2 equals 3. Bring over to 2. 4x equals 1. X therefore has to be a quarter. Now we can check out this answer. So to check out this answer, it'll be 4 to the power of 2 times a quarter plus 1. So we can check out this answer and make sure it's 8. So 4 to the power of 2 times a quarter plus 1, and the answer is 8, so we know that our answer is correct. Okay. Now 5c, express 8.4 by 10 to the 4 divided by 1.2 by 10 to minus 2 and 2.8 by 10 to 3 in the form a multiplied by 10 to the power of n, where a is a number between 1 and 10. Okay, so what we can do here is we can just type this into the calculator straight away. So 8.4 multiplied by 10 to the power of 4 divided by 1.2 multiplied by 10 to the power of minus 2 multiplied by 2.8 multiplied by 10 to the power of 3, and what we get there is 2,500. So 2,500 is not in this form. Divide 2,500 by 10. So remember, it's going to be something multiplied by 10 to the power of a positive number, because the positive number is above 2, it's above 1. Okay, so what we're going to get here is divide 2,500 by 10 and see how many 10s it takes to get it down between 1 and 10. That's 1, that's 2, and that there's 3. So it takes 3 of them to bring it to 2.5. So that's a 3, and that's a 2.5. Okay, find the value of 25 to the power of a half plus 1/8 to the power of a third. Well, you can just put that straight into the calculator as well. So bracket 25 close bracket to the power of a half plus 1c8 to the power of 1/3. A mistake on that. So 1c8 to the power of 1/3. Where we go and get is 11 over 2, which is 5.5. Okay, 16 to the power of n equals a quarter. Now remember, 16, we need a new base number, so we can change 16 into 4 squared. So that's 4 squared to the power of n. We can change a quarter into 4 to the power of minus 1, because you bring it up to the top. Okay, now what we get is 2 multiplied by n, so we get 4 to the power of 2n equals 4 to the power of minus 1. 2n therefore equals minus 1. 2 goes underneath, n equals minus a half. Now b part 1, x equals the square root of a squared plus b squared, and a equals root 2, so x equals the square root of bracket root 2 squared plus root 7 squared is what we want to find out. So we just need to put that into the calculator. The square root bracket square root 2 close bracket squared plus square root root 7 close bracket squared. That equals 3. That's for part 1. For part 2, so for part 2 what we could get is x equals the square root of 3 7 squared plus 4 7 squared. So the square root of bracket equals 5/7. So that answer there is 5/7. Okay, part C. Express square root of 125 as a power of 5. So what is root 125? So root 125, we got to turn this answer into 5 to the power something. So what we know about 125 is it's the same thing as 5 cubed. We did it earlier. It takes 5 multiplied by itself 3 times to make 125. So now what we have is the square root of 5 cubed. The square root sign of any number is the same thing as that number to the power of a half. So what we can change root 5 to the power root 5 to the power 3 to is 5 to the power 3 to the power of a half, which is equal to 5 to the power something. Then finally we can multiply 3 by a half, and we're going to get 5 to the power 3 over 2. And this is our answer here, so 5 to the power 3 over 2. Now let's look at the next answer, next question, and keeping our answer in mind of 5 to the power 3 over 2. Okay, 25 to the power of x equals the square root of 125. We know that's 5 to the power 3 over 2, and we know that the bottom is 5 to the power of 1. Now we got to change 25 into 5s, okay, so 25 is going to turn into 5 squared to the power of x. This rule here is basically the same thing as 7 to the power of 4 divided by 7 to the power of 1. The answer is 7 to the power of 4 minus 1, which is 7 to the power of 3. So we have to do the same thing here. We got to get 5 to the power of 3 over 2 minus 1. So what this turns out to be is you do your real 5 to the power of 2x equals 5 to the power of 3 over 2 minus 1, which is 5 to the power of a half. Now we know that 2x must equal a half. Bring the 2 down underneath. X therefore must be equal to a quarter. Okay, that concludes the end of the video.